Stop shooting all over yourself.
Mm.
That is very rude and disrespectful.
Yeah.
And it is even more rude and disrespectful when other people shit all over you. I am an optimist, but I'm not a magical thinker. I can accept things just as they are. And I think that has a lot to do with being a Black woman raised by a Black woman.
Welcome to Impostrix Podcast Season 4. My name is Whitney and I am your host. Thanks for joining us for this episode. I am excited to jump into it. Impostrix Podcast validates professionals of color navigating imposter experiences and racial toxicity within their careers. And this season, we are focusing exclusively on pouring into Black women. How can we take care of the Black women in our lives? If we are a Black woman, how can we pour into ourselves? How can we receive the pour from others? So this episode is going to be about that and all the episodes within this season. So sit back, get your listening ears on. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Impostrix Podcast, Season 4. Today's episode is a special episode for me because we are talking to Tony Kennedy, who is the creator, the mastermind behind what has become my family's favorite, like, kids podcast, but really media, their favorite media, and that is the podcast What's Poppin' Penny. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that during this conversation. But as you all know, our theme for this season is pouring into Black women. And so we are going to use What's Poppin' Penny to kind of segue into how Miss Tony cares for herself, living in a multi-generational household and doing all the things. So I am really excited to have you on, Miss Tony. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm so grateful and excited to be here with you today, Whitney. Words can hardly express, and I'm a writer. My name's Tony Kennedy. I am a grandma, mom, wife. Um, I live in Florida, and What's Poppin' Penny is my brand new baby,
Yes.
a baby at 60.
And you and I started our podcast around the same time, I believe, because yours started in October of 2023, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I started in July of 2023. Yeah,
Wow.
and I remember being in, like, what was it? The Black Women's Podcast. What was it called? I can't remember what it was called because they just changed their name.
Uh, is it BIPOC?
But there's okay, well, I seen you around. Like, I remember, like, seeing you and hearing about What's Poppin' Penny and, being really impressed with it. And then, of course, my family recently got, like, real into it. And I think my kids are the perfect age now to be able to experience it. They're 4 and 7. And yeah, we really enjoy it. We really enjoy it.
Oh, thank you. I guess we belong to the Mutual Admiration Society because ever since I think I discovered you in one of those groups as well. And I want to say though that it was Gotham. It was something. It was I don't remember what it was, but um, I started listening to you then, right?
Mm.
And oh my gosh, my daughter and I, we could just go on and we do for days about just one of your podcasts. Like each one is such a gem and it resonates so deeply with us. You know, she's 32, I'm 60, and but you just open up such a dialogue for us to have about the way things are, the way things were, and all the steps in between them.
Yeah.
And then also what we hope it will be like for her children.
Yes.
So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
I had no idea that we started around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you'd been doing this for years and years and years and years because you're just so good at it.
Thank you. Thank you. That means so much to me to hear because that is like, I love this idea of it being a mother-daughter activity for you all. And I think that is one way that podcasts have really, it's an opportunity that podcasts give us, when we're able to listen to these conversations or watch these conversations with our loved ones and then talk about them. And I'll say, so let's talk about What's Poppin' Penny, because now I want to talk about how your show has done that for my family. Because so What's Poppin' Penny is a podcast for children ish, I guess, and adult. I feel like it's for me too. Um, it's a children's podcast. We'll say that, right? Um, and it features a brown skinned girl with curly hair whose name is Penny, and she lives in a brownstone with her parents and her grandmother, and then her cat Penelope and her teddy bear TA. And the teddy bear TA is enchanted, and it's enchanted by her grandfather, who she has a very special relationship with. And here's what I love about What's Poppin' Penny, and how it makes me feel. So my children love it, and I love it because the information that, or the problem solving that's happening, is problem solving that I haven't seen in other children's media. So, for example, the first episode dealing with grief, after her grandfather passes away, and she discovers this bear, and she's trying to figure out, why is everybody laughing when they talk about grandpa when all I feel is sadness. Um, and being able to like listen to a little girl go through, experience that. But another of my favorite episodes was going to her grandfather's family's reunion, and talking about ancestry and talking about culture, and um, talking about food and the foods that are deeply ingrained in our culture. And it's all from this perspective of this little girl. And so then my children come to me and they say, Mommy, what's our culture? Or Mommy, what are ancestors? Or Mommy, what happened to her grandpa? Where is her grandpa? And my children have gone through, they've lost a couple of family members recently. And so we've talked about death, and my my older son said, they in the ground. Um, and when I was explaining cremation, my younger son goes, so what is it? They go into an oven? And then my older son goes, yeah, they toast. And like, Jesus. Okay. But anyways, it has created a space for us to be able to communicate and talk with our children about some of the things that they're hearing. And it's cool because the culture that they are learning about is a culture that's similar to their own. Um, and so that has been a true blessing in our lives. And I definitely recommend that anyone with children, young children, listen to this podcast. And I know that their kids are going to love it. Um, yeah, it's just, my kids make me rewind certain parts all the time. They love when Penny gets in trouble and her mom says, Penny, Risa, White, right. So they go around the house saying that. Like, I could go on and on and on about this podcast, and I hope that people do tune in. But what it does to me, I know this is a lot of talking. I'm gonna get to you in a second, Tony.
Oh, I enjoy. I'm in the familiar seat. I'm listening to you, so I am just chill over here. This is all good for me.
So what it does for me though is models a type of parenting that I am not like. Zoe the mom and Jabari, the father, and Spicy, the grandmother, like that parenting team is a model for me in terms of like patience, in terms of dealing with our frustration, in terms of trying to figure out how to communicate to these children these really big things that are happening around us. And it helps me have perspective around my own parenting, around where I want to be better, around where I'm like, nah, my child ain't like Penny. I gotta be a little more firm with this child. Um, and so it just really feels good though to have that, to be able to, at the same time where my children are being able to reflect on what they're learning, it's an opportunity for me to reflect on what I'm observing and learning and hearing, not only from my children, but from the characters in the show.
Oh, I'm choked up. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just don't have anything. I wish someone would invent a word that's bigger than thank you, because I feel that in my heart. And thank you so much. It's like I've hit all the check marks of the intention, of creating the show.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I hear you speak, I'm like, okay, I can go now, God.
No, you absolutely cannot. Don't listen, God. So let's pause a minute and just get real. You do everything for everybody. But have you taken a moment to care for future you? Getting your affairs in order isn't just about wills or trusts. It's about peace of mind for you and love for those that you leave behind. Ideally, we should all have an estate plan. And if you're in Georgia, Wills for the People can help you out. But if you're not ready yet to create your will or trust, there's something that you can do that will go a long way in helping the future you. And that is to get organized. The I Plan for This Life Organizer for when it's needed is a workbook designed to help you organize your life with clarity and ease, making it so that if someone needs to care for you or for your affairs because you're not able to, they have all of the information that they need. No stress, no confusion, just a record made by you, about you. Visit willsforthepeoplega.com to get your copy, because you deserve to be prepared and to have your loved ones prepared. Again, that's willsforthepeoplega.com, and click on the workbook tab. Back to the show. So let's talk about your background and like what is the journey that led to What's Poppin' Penny?
We will have to go way back.
Okay.
Way, way, way back. And I always describe my home as a kid as a place that I know I was loved, but it was not a gentle environment.
Mm.
And that was one of the first lessons that I learned. Like, life is just one big long lesson. Sometimes you're being taught, and sometimes you are the lesson to somebody else, right? So I that was one of the lessons, that everybody's house doesn't look like mine, and everybody's love does not look the same, right? I also say that I was more of a roommate than a child.
Mm.
I always think of that. I wrote a blog once, and it says children are the other R word, and it's not romantic. A lot of people put a lot of romance around conception and around child rearing, a lot of romance around that. Children are responsibility. And for young women, I'll paint this picture for them. Imagine meeting a man who does not talk to you, only screams at you. And you have to guess what he wants. Is he hungry? Does he want a cuddle? Like, what's going on? He just screams at you. And then when he's not screaming at you, he's asleep. And when he wakes up, he wants something from you. That's children. And that's children like from day one.
Yep.
Not romantic at all. Right? You would, if that were a man, you would run away from him.
Like, I hope she's not describing her father, because man.
No, that's a baby. So when I hear young girls or any woman of any age say, I want a child because I want someone to love, that's a notion that's out there.
Yeah,
but it's unrealistic, and it sets us up to feel like failures because we don't understand the assignment from the beginning. You're going to be pouring, and you'll need support to pour back into you, which is why my daughter and I love your show. You pour into us. You talk about the frustrations that we face. You talk about the joy that we face. You pour into us, and then we exchange that pour with each other, you know? But because these were my circumstances, I was a roommate, all of the things, right? I had to learn to parent myself. And I'm 60, so I'm at the bottom part of the baby boomers, right? So TV was a big part of our lives, that generation. We had like the Waltons and the Brady Bunch, and we had Good Times, and TV was a big part of our lives. But my family did not look like the families I gravitated toward. The first time I saw an adult talking with a child was Sesame Street. All the adults in my life, they gave directives. Sit down, be quiet, go here, go there, stop this, stop. It was a directives, right? And then I saw Gordon and Susan and Maria. They would just talk about the weather. Or, I mean, it was just conversation, and boy, oh boy, that was like one of the first doors to open that, oh, I can aspire to, even if I don't have those adults in my life, I can aspire to be that type of adult when I grow up.
Yeah.
And so that's what I started doing, like collecting them like Pokemons. I just started collecting the people that I wanted to be, not the actual people that I had. And because of this, I think what happened was the people I had didn't affect me as much.
Oh, wow.
They were temporary. Because one day, when I grow up, I'm going to move to Sesame Street and I'm going to be the Susan, you know?
Yeah.
And then another miraculous thing happened. I was in a library, and not even a section I was supposed to be in, and a book literally fell off the shelf and hit me. And it was a bright yellow book, and I picked it up, and it was called A Child's World. And what it was the psychology. It was a developmentally psychology of children.
Oh, wow.
And I checked it out. And so I started to learn about the history of child development. For instance, back in the 1600s, the French thought children were literally mentally incompetent. Like the word used was retarded, right? To mean slow. And that they would grow out of this condition. Now, I have a funny story about that because my mom had me when she was 43. And the doctor would tell her, caution her before I was born, that I may be mongoloid, as they would call it back then, right? Down syndrome is what it's better known. Right?
Oh,
but
wow.
back then they would say mongoloid.
Okay.
So he would caution her every appointment. And when she tells me that after I was born, she would look at me to see if I would turn mongoloid. And at one appointment, she says, I told him, she's about 5 months old now. When will she turn? Like, when will I know when she will turn? And he was like, no, that's not how that works. She won't turn. But it's in perfect line. Her thinking is in perfect line of what child development was thought of.
Right.
Way back when. So having this book, every time I would meet, I would read the book just all the time. I never returned it. I still have it on my bookshelf. Those library fees are astronomical at this point. But it helped raise me in what was normal, like my curiosity.
Yeah.
Which that's children in a nutshell. Curiosity. Societal expectations on that curiosity. And for a lot of the times for children, it's to be tapped down, to be molded in some way. So it was very reassuring to have this book that told me all the time, you're normal. It's a stage. You're going to pass through it. Because I did not have those adults.
Mm.
So as a result of that, that's kind of my approach. With kids, with parents, with people. It's a phase. It's normal. You'll pass through it. Some of us pass through it at fast as lightning. Some of us linger a little longer. Unfortunately, some of us stay stagnant. A lot of times I talk to people and I realize I'm talking to the 8-year-old in them. And they have just stayed at that developmental phase emotionally on certain issues. And it's okay because we can nurture and support that too.
And so did you end up going on to study childhood development, or what? You're in childhood development, right?
Yes, I was a preschool teacher for over, I always say over a decade, but then one day we did the math and it was like over 2 decades.
You just
But
lost a
no,
decade there.
yeah, I did. They say time flies when you're having fun. I left being in preschool to become a nurse because I was like, I need a fallback career, and I got that license, but I hauled butt back into the classroom because the way I put it was, I go home every day as a preschool teacher smelling like sunshine and finger paints. And then as a nurse, I went home with a completely different smell. And that was just like an emotional smell, not a literal one. But you just asked me a question and I wanted to circle back to it. I'm sorry, I forgot what it was.
What's Poppin' Penny, and how, like, what your journey was. And so you were talking about, like,
yeah,
all of this background to essentially being able to understand yourself, but also being able to understand how to pour into children.
Yeah, I say child development is human development. And I think a lot of the time, it sounds like such a simple statement, but I think a lot of the times, those of us in charge of the care of developing children, we often will look at the goal and not the process along the way.
Yeah.
And so development, it takes time to develop something.
Yeah.
So those steps along the way, and how do I put it? Those steps along the way are so important, right? And to be in that moment. Because then you have to go back, as many of us as adults realize, we have to go back and do over. Which brings me to like, what's Poppin' Penny and its healing factor for a lot of adults.
Yeah.
It's a big do-over. Because a very important step in their life was either completely missed or rushed through or deemed unimportant to develop.
Yeah. And I'm having like competing thoughts, and one of them is what you said about realizing sometimes that when you're talking to people, you're talking to the 8-year-old self. and this acknowledgement that some of us are kind of frozen in time as far as specific things that are maybe happening, like when we get triggered, or then we're back to the 8-year-old self. um the other thought that I had was around really patience. I just take so much from What's Poppin' Penny around patience, and exactly what you said of really being in the process and honoring, I think, the process. And so, for example, my son is struggling with school. My 7-year-old, he doesn't like it. He wants to rush through everything. He can read, but he doesn't know what he's reading. He can count and do math some ways, but not other ways. And he's not interested in learning all the various strategies that they have come up with in this life to do math. And my husband and I get super frustrated when we are working with him on it because we don't understand why you don't understand. um, and last Friday, Thursday, we were doing his math work, and my husband got super frustrated, and I could tell, so I took over. And it wound up being like an hour long situation of like I'm learning how he's supposed to do this math, and he is relearning. We were on YouTube watching videos. We were like, I realized that there is like these blocks that he usually uses when he's at school that he doesn't have at home. So then I cut out blocks and bought some on Amazon, but cut them out for that moment. And like it was an hour long process of understanding, or trying to understand, what the breakdown was. Um, and so often I'm just not in the space. I don't have the mental capacity, it feels like. Or I think I don't have the mental capacity to spend that time. Um, but I do. I do. And remembering that it is the process. Uh, and that time with me or with his father doing the homework and taking the time to really understand what's happening is going to encourage him and help him with his confidence now, but also as he grows and realizes, like, okay, some things I just need more time to
Yeah.
understand, or something like my brain just works this way. I need to have visuals. I can't be doing stuff in my head. Like, how many of us adults are like, oh yeah, we know that about ourselves.
Yeah.
And he's over here thinking there's something wrong with him because his brain isn't working like other people's brains, apparently. um, and if we get angry with him about that, well, we get frustrated, which he's going to perceive as anger, then what is that telling him?
Yeah. That is so I'm glad you had that realization. That is like, I'm sure that has changed the trajectory of the legacy of your family for generations.
Mm. Hmm.
Because, that's how that stuff works. It's
Yeah.
called cycles.
Yeah.
And in breaking that cycle that you've been in, whether it was something you were carrying forward or something that you just were initiating, it doesn't matter. Now your son has a whole different way of being that he will share with his family, especially around the process of learning new things. I think we forget transitions are the hardest part of life. It's not the thing that's hard, it's the transition of the thing. And kids are in constant transition.
Yeah.
Constant. We give them a pacifier, and then one day we say, oh, they asked for it, and we go, oh, you're too big for that. And they're like, what? I didn't even start this. You did. Like, when did this happen? What is going on? And then we get surprised by their surprise and their resistance to the change of it all. And then one day they're like, pick me up. And you're like, you're too big, man. And you're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's kindergarten and first grade. And don't even get me started on potty training, which is like a whole big thing for the entire family. And it's so important that parents understand that one simple process is the very first, well, for some people, it may start with to breastfeed or not to breastfeed, right?
Yeah.
But potty training universally is like the first time parents feel a outside pressure to accommodate somebody else's thoughts about their child.
Mm-hmm.
What? He's not potty trained yet? Huh. And we don't even go, what is wrong with you? That is not a normal thing to say to me about something so intimate happening in my home with my child. We go, oh, well, I'm going to work. I've been working on it. And I like that societal pressure of our children. That's the first time it actually happens. And that's why it can be so traumatizing for parents, because they feel like failures and failures and failures. And it's like, no, take that off yourself. Just no. But we don't always have the people around us to say, just no. Get out of here with that. As I used to tell my parents in the classroom, when they would lament about the potty training and when should I start, Miss Kennedy, and when should I do it and how should I do it? We've tried this and we tried. I'm like, honey, he will not go to college in a diaper. He won't even go to kindergarten in a diaper.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Take that pressure off yourself. You're doing all the things. You've got your schedule. You're doing all the things. They'll get it. And for little Larry, who was potty trained at 8 months, I had a friend say that to me. When we were, not potty training my granddaughter, and she asked, "Is she potty trained yet?" And I said, "No, we haven't even started." And she went, "Well, my daughter was potty trained at 8 months," and I just went, "Well, that doesn't sound traumatic at all."
Yeah, like what?
That sounds like a whole bunch. Now, I said the opposite. I was being sarcastic, but I'm like, that sounds like a whole bunch of unnecessary trauma for both of you to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass on that one.
So I love hearing all of this from you. And I'm thinking about you caring for yourself. Because there's so much when you are a caregiver through and through. You are an educator. You're a mother, you're a grandmother, you live with these people, which, whoo, child. And you're a mother to what's poppin' Penny. Like, do you have a full-time job right now? Are you retired? What's happening?
I have been so incredibly fortunate that I've not been the breadwinner. So I am able to follow my passions. Good. And for a long time, my passion was my children.
Yeah.
So I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. Then I opened an indoor playground, and my passion became about caring for the parents who were caring for the kids. I have so many anecdotes, and I think that's just how my brain works. But they're so important to me, these lessons that happen. I had a mom come in, and she was like lamenting about her child not eating. And I just said something very flippant, and it wasn't from a bad place. I just went, well, no kid has ever starved in a house full of food, right? And I just went on. And then another mom came into the indoor playground, and they had kids about the same age. And she said to her, I'm just having such a hard time getting him to eat. I'm just so worried about him. Is he getting enough nutrition? All of the worries. And I could overhear the other mom, and they're sitting on the floor, and I could overhear the other mom say to her, yeah, I've gone through that. Have you tried like sweet vegetables, like sweet peas
Mm-hmm.
and carrots, or rather corn, things with a sweet, like she took her seriously. This was a real concern. I had teenagers at the time eating me out of house and home. So I could not understand what this woman was talking about.
Girl, that's where my kids are right now. And they ain't teenagers. They will not stop eating.
So her worrying about this child not eating was just like so foreign to me because I've forgotten about it, which is okay.
Mm-hmm.
This other mom was able to be there for her and waylay those fears and try to come up with a strategy with her. And it was just one of the most life lessons for me to stop being so, sometimes our own point of view get in the way of helping others. That's where I was. But she needed my genuine help. And to me, I kind of failed her because I wasn't willing to put where I was aside and not remember where I'd been. Because, of course, I've been in her shoes. Every mother has been in her shoes.
Yeah, but I do think that the perspective is helpful because it is the case. I mean, our kids go through these phases and we will be so torn up when we are knee deep in the phase and a week later they eaten everything.
Yeah.
So it is, I mean, for me with parenting in particular, like it's really hard for me to care for myself because of course I am so caught up in raising a human, two humans. Um and I forget that they'll be okay. It'll be fine. They'll eat something. Maybe they're not having all their vegetables right now. Okay. And like I stopped trying to give my kids vegetables. I just stopped. Period. Like hopefully they eat vegetables at daycare because they ain't eating vegetables in my house. And we get all the fruits in. Sometimes I get the little squeezy pouches that have vegetable and fruit, but like I don't have the energy for this.
Well, I think if I could label what you've done and the strength of what you've done, Whitney, you have found the power in the pivot.
Mm.
When you said, I get those little squeezy pouches and I like common sense rules, and then you're on with the rest of your life.
Got to be. Because otherwise I will make myself sick worrying about all of the things. Because there's a lot to worry about. So how have
Yeah.
you kind of navigated this pull to, or maybe the balance of you've got so many people, so many loved ones, so many not loved ones, so many people that are just in your life through your various activities and passions who you feel called to pour into them. How do you pour into yourself?
I like a good challenge. That's a part of my personality. Um, Whether it's a crossword puzzle or trying to, I think I I see columns, like I see columns. That's just how my brain operates.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm the queen of compartmentalization.
Mm-hmm.
And when my life is too big for me, I make it smaller. I don't have a problem with taking things and putting it on a shelf and not judging myself for that action. Because, like I said, this is how I say it to myself. My life is too big. I need to make it smaller. And I think that's how I pour into myself.
Yeah. Does that take any unlearning for you? Because I feel like there are times in our lives, or maybe even, as growing up, where we're aspiring to bigness, whatever that means, where we are aspiring to fullness of life. Where, like, for me, I'm an extrovert. So my life is frequently too big and I'm frequently needing to pull it back. But it's almost like, in some respects, I think it's a coping mechanism. Like, I busy myself so that I'm not sitting still with myself sometimes. Um, Other times, like, I find a sense of worth and value, self value, in doing all the things. Um, and I think other times I feel like this is just what I should be doing. This is like the societal pressure or the expectation that a woman of my age, of my socioeconomic status, of my background should be doing this thing, and my child should be in all the sports programs, and I should be driving every single day of the week to a basketball practice and a soccer practice, and we should be eating dinner at 8 p.m. instead of going to bed at 8 p.m. So for me, a big part of this season of pouring into myself is taking a step back from everybody else's stuff, um, and taking a step back from my stuff. And I'm wondering, for you, is that at all a challenge, or are you just like, nope, I can cut that?
Um, wow, that was a big question. And the thought that it brought up for me when you were talking is, stop shooting all over yourself. That is very rude and disrespectful.
Yeah.
And it is even more rude and disrespectful when other people shit all over you.
Yeah.
Magical thinking. I mean, I am an optimist, but I'm not a magical thinker. I can accept things just as they are. And I think that has a lot to do with being a Black woman raised by a Black woman. My mom grew up as a sharecropper. She had a very harsh life, 5th grade education, picked cotton, picked tobacco as a child, afraid of worms on the tobacco leaves, but still had to do it. Nobody was giving her any sympathy for her childhood fears, right? I once asked her, as a child as young as my granddaughter's 4, why do your shoulders go in right here? What's wrong with your shoulders? And she said, well, that's from carrying the heavy cotton bags and the heavy tobacco bags. When I was a kid, you put the bag on, and it made a permanent indentation in this child's body.
Wow.
Right? And remember, she's 43 when she had me,
Yeah.
so she's in her 50s
Yeah.
when I'm asking her these questions. And it still has a physical toll on her body. Her childhood, we called, that was a physical one, but now we've learned about autoimmune systems being affected. childhood has a physical toll on your body, right? But my mother did give me the gift. God gave me the gift of filter. My mother gave me the gift of being direct. So that was the first thing. I'm like, please, Whitney, stop disrespecting yourself. Take back your power.
Mm-hmm.
Take back your autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
We live, little things happen in my brain, and I'm like, okay. We walk among them, not with them. That was something that I got early, and I practiced early because I got it early in the church. I may be walking out here with all y'all, but I'm not doing all y'all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And mostly I'm just doing me. The other thing I got from the church was from Sister Williams, my Sunday school teacher. At one point, she made us kids, like when I was your son's age, she made us get a song that we were going to live our life by. Gave us the little red book, said, find your song. Got to walk with the song in your heart. So find your song. And she was dead serious. She rejected, so many songs they came up with because, I don't want to hear about this little light. No. I don't want to hear about he's got the whole world in his hand. No. I want you to get in them lyrics in that songbook, and I want you to find your song that you're going to live your life by.
He got my song.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Because how you going to implement that on your day-to-day basis? Just walking around in God's hand like that. What you going to do?
Wow.
So my song that I chose was If I Can Help Somebody. If I can help somebody as I travel along, if I can help somebody with a word or song, if I can help somebody, I can sing it, but I can remember it better when I'm singing it, but I'm not going to hurt you that way. When they're traveling wrong, then my living has not been in vain. So I guess I don't want my living to be in vain. And therefore, my life is very personal to me.
Yeah.
It don't have to look like yours.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I am not a nice person. A nice person will get up at 4 a.m. and take you to the airport. That is not me. Do not call me. My phone's off. But I am a decent person. I will always treat you the way, even when I don't feel like it, I will always treat you in a way that when I reflect on it, I feel that God has helped me serve my purpose in that moment. And that's hard.
Yeah.
That has kept me busy. So I don't even have time to be all up in your life because I'm busy over here just trying to be this thing.
Yeah. I liked, you said, my life is so personal to me. And I think I'm hearing that with fresh ears, and just thinking about that it is mine. That it is mine. And it's not really up to debate. And that feels freeing. It feels freeing. So in your household, how do you keep your boundaries? How do you keep your boundaries with all these, with your grandkids and with your daughter? I just, I'm curious. I've never lived in a multi-generational household, and that is such a common experience for particularly Black folks, but for a lot of different communities. And I'm curious about how you're able to keep your life yours.
Um, Emphasizing, right, works both ways. First noticed it when my kids were adults and they come home to visit and they were around each other. Big sister had a tendency to the little brother, even though they were adults.
Mm-hmm.
And it would say, don't little brother him. And it's a whole new way they had to learn to interact with each other. Again, transitions.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to treat you like an adult, you can't mom me. It can't be a switch you turn on and off.
Yeah.
And so through bumps and interactions and bumps, and you get, you have to go through that transition. The biggest life lesson for me that I had to personally take on was where intention, because I'm such an intention-based person, what role in how intention was sabotaging me, or how I needed to look at it differently. Like if I'm in the back of the line and it's Black Friday and I'm trying to get to that TV set, if my intention is to get to the TV set, then I might run over a person or step on a toe, or right. But if my intention is to go and get that TV set without bodily harming anyone else, then how I move in life is going to look different.
Yeah.
So widening that intention and understanding the consequences of the intention, right? Like all of the consequences, just by adding to the intention, makes you move differently in life. So my intention was to be a support system for my daughter, to be a support system for my granddaughter, but I only knew that as a mom, what that looked like. So I moved like that a lot of the time in the house. And all of the conflict that ever happened came around that. Because that's what moms do.
Yeah, but you're not in mom
I'm
role.
not.
You're not that grandbaby's mother. And
not my daughter's mother.
Right, you guys are adults.
I've already done the thing God asked me to. Raise them, keep them, up to age. Let them know about the word of God. Let them, I was the keeper. And now whatever their life is going to look like, that's between them and God. I did my part. But that's hard to just turn off, like I said. So it was how I'm answering your question, I hope, how it all came to look like self-care for me was, as the kids say, stay in my lane. How do I stay in my lane? Widen my intention. If my daughter was my neighbor across the street, and I'm not this type of person who just says anything to anybody, and I know that about myself, would I talk to my neighbor the way I'm about to talk to my daughter? And understanding all those precious memories that I have of her and her brother, all those little things that I have of their developmental stages, right? And that wonder that they had, and those gifts of being there with them as they're going through that. Why would I take that away from her just because we happen to live in the same house? Those are her gifts. Those are not my gifts. And there's something bittersweet about it. But there's something bittersweet about life. And I think that's how, when she gets overwhelmed sometimes, I don't I don't go in, because a part of being an adult that is that ability to ask for help.
Mm, yeah.
If you ain't asking, I ain't giving.
That's something that I'm working on the other side of things. Like, well, no, I guess that exactly that. If you're I'm stopping butting into somebody else's problem to help them. I'm not going to spend my energy on that anymore. Now, if you want my help, let me listen and let me help you. But a lot of times these people don't want my help. I just think that I'm so great.
You just can't. I don't think, and I don't know you this way. You know you better. I don't think you think you're so great. I think that you are so competent and so caring that you want to lighten someone else's load.
Mm-hmm. I ain't doing
And
that no
that's
more.
not a bad
Yeah,
thing.
but I'm
Yeah,
not.
it's not a bad thing, but it's a thing.
It's a thing that results in my load being heavier
Yes.
when they haven't
Yeah.
even asked. Nope.
My thing is the lie I didn't ask for. Like, why give me the lie I didn't even ask for? If I asked for something, right? If I asked you, um, Whitney, may I borrow a cup of sugar? And you got a whole pound in there and you're like, no. That's one thing. But if you come to my door and knock on it and be like, Tony, I got a pound of sugar, I'm going to give you a cup. And 7 hours later, 3 days later, 4 weeks later, I'm like, why did you even come and give me that lie? I did not even ask. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to fit. That's what that we were talking. You said something that triggered, like, where am I struggling right now? Like, you're struggling with the, staying out of people's way. My thing is, how do I get over the lie I didn't ask for? Because it will stick in my craw. It can be petty, but it will stick in my craw. And I'm like, help me with that one, God. Help me with that one.
Mm-hmm. That's funny. So we talked a lot about what's poppin' Penny, and I've got one question that I've been dying to ask, and that is, are you spicy? So for people that haven't listened, Spicy is the grandmother. And I hear you in her. And not necessarily like your voice. Like, I'm not asking, is that your voice? I'm asking, is that character based on you?
The name of the character Spicy comes from my daughter describing me as a grandma, as sugar and spice and everything nice. But I can be that other type of spicy too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's where the name Spicy came from, for the grandma, for Penny. Spicy is me, but Spicy was born out of my love for my sister Terry.
Oh.
My sister Terry passed away of ALS. I guess it's like 3 years now.
Oh, wow.
And I'm the youngest of 9, and
oh, Lord.
So when you come from a big family, there's usually best friends. Like, you'll find your best friend in your family, right? In one of your siblings. And Terry and I were best friends. She was 8 years older than me. So she was 8 when I was born. So I was like her little baby doll.
Yeah.
And my sister Terry had the type of, I'll put it this way. She is caring, but one of the things that I remember most when I start to grumble was something when I was a new mom. And I was complaining to her about living so far up in these mountains, and I'm all alone with the kids, and he's never really around. He's always at work, and he's always never really around, and I need help. And my sister was sitting there, and she said, so you're complaining about this house you went and asked for, went out with the real estate agent, chose.
Dang.
You complaining about This life of the lonely housewife, the housewife you chose to be. Women out here working every day, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
You complaining about this husband you chose. You complaining about this job he's on all the time that brings food into your house and pay your bills and the car you drive. And that was my sister Terry. Accountability. I don't think I would have accountability if it was not for her.
And that's exactly what I hear and what you're saying. And you had said something earlier too about, I think it was when we were talking about your life is personal, and that made me think of accountability as like a word for you. And that's,
and just recently, my daughter asked me if I was, like, looking back, she's like, are you okay with your life? Are you okay with your life, Mom? And I said, Paige, yes, but mostly because I chose it.
Yeah.
Not because of the things that happen in it. And there's something very, I can live with that if you choose it.
Yeah.
Things that are thrust upon you, no. But when you know you have actively chosen the thing, then it's like I bought a dog and it barks. I'm going to be upset because I got a bark in my house?
Right.
I went out and chose a dog.
Yeah.
And there's something for me that's very, I'm all right with that.
Wow. This conversation has been great. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you let listeners know where they can find you, where they can find What's Poppin' Penny?
On Instagram, I am Hey, What's Poppin' Penny. And that's true of TikTok and all the socials that I'm on. And on LinkedIn, I'm Toni, Toni, Kennedy, Kennedy. And then on YouTube, I'm also Hey, What's Poppin' Penny.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Toni and What's Poppin' Penny are a sponsor for us this season. And so thank you also for your support of the show.
Oh, thank you for the joy you've brought into our lives. Thank you so much, Whitney.
All right. Until next time, y'all, be validated. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Impostrix Podcast. I hope that you got what you needed. If you're ready for more, feel free to go through the other 3 seasons worth of amazing episodes that we've put together for you. I want to hear from you. I want to know how you related to this episode. So if you're listening on Spotify, feel free to answer the question or send a text. You can do that through your Spotify app. If you're listening elsewhere, make sure that you follow me on Instagram at Impostrix Podcast. And if you like to text, go ahead, go to the show notes, look for the link for the WhatsApp community, because we just got it started this season for season 4, and I love to chat, so hit me up. Also, thank you to Chris at Digital REM for editing this episode. Until next time, be validated.